Hello, my name is Jon Cravotta, and I will be giving you a presentation on AngularJS. So let's get started. So what is AngularJS? So AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. It builds rich single-page applications. It uses the MVC architecture and client-side technology. So you're probably confused as to what all of this is if you've never seen any of these terms before. So I'll go deeper into that later and explain more of what that all is exactly. So it was initially made at Google. Misko Hervey is the founding father of AngularJS and is now fully supported by Google. So it was initially made in their 80-20 period, and if never heard of that before, Google has this thing where they spend 80% of their time um, building whatever their main projects are at Google, but they give 20% of their time to their employees to do their own thing and do their own side project. So this was Misko Hervey's side project back in 2009. He started working with a few other people there at Google to build this framework, and now it's one of the biggest frameworks out there. It's also fully open source, so if anybody ever want to contribute anything, you could go check that out on GitHub. So what is a single page application? So a single page application uses one server to load for the application. A single page apps are very fast because they don't have to go back and forth to the server. All the data is already loaded onto the web page once you load it at the initial time. So some companies that use single page applications is YouTube, MSNBC, Vivo, and Salesforce. They all use Angular. There's other frameworks out there called Backbone, Ember, Meteor, and those are also pretty big frameworks. If you've ever been on Twitter on computer, you've used a single page application, everything's already loaded. So that's what single page applications do. So how do they do this? They use this using MVC architecture. Now, MVC architecture isn't new. It's been around for a while. They use it with Ruby on Rails and other programming languages, but it's new now that it's on the client side, and we'll get into that later also. So MVC stands for model, view, and controller. So what the model does is it updates the view. The user uses the controller, manipulates the model, and updates the view, and then the user sees that. So what does that all mean? So for instance, if you look here, you have the user and it uses the controller. So for instance, this is like clicking on a button. So once the user clicks on a button, whatever that is, it goes to the model and says, hey, this person clicked on the model. What the model does goes to the database and retrieves whatever information that button requires. It updates the view, which is the static HTML, and then the user sees that. That all happens in instant click, and this is new in the client side, is that click happens instantly. Back a few years ago, you would have to click on a button and you would wait for the server to load to retrieve the information, and that's already preloaded, so that's why it's very fast. So this is what I was talking about, client-side tech. It's software that runs on the client's end, example, web browsers, and now that it's in JavaScript, it is in the web browser already, so that's how this is all very fast. So going a little bit deeper into the MVC framework, the controller sends commands to the model, updating the model's state, editing a document. It also sends commands to its associated view to change the view's presentation of the model. So in simpler terms, like I said before, this is like clicking on a button. This is like clicking on a user's profile on Twitter or Facebook, and it loads it based on whose ever name you're clicking on. So the controller tells the model, hey, retrieve this person's information. So what the model does is it notifies associated views and controllers when there has been a change in its state. This notification allows the views to produce updated output and the controllers to change the available set of commands. In some cases, an MVC implementation may instead be passive, and other components must pull the model for updates rather than being notified. So that's a little confusing, but again, as you can see in this example, you have the view, which is the user, writes to the controller, updates the model. So what the model does is it goes to the database and retrieves, hey, we need to pick John Smith's data and get his latest tweets and fill the view with it, which is a static HTML. And that's what Angular lets you do. It lets you build these templates and separate your pages so you're not always updating the HTML or anything. It's just a static template, and then the model is what's retrieving all the information. So the view, as I just said, is the static HTML. A view requests information from the model, and it uses to generate an output representation to the user. So this is, again, like the example I said, clicking on a user's profile and seeing all their information. So the view is what you end up seeing. Data binding is when properties in the model get updated, so does the UI. So now AngularJS has this feature called two-way data binding, which lets the model and the views get updated in real time, and that's without the server load. So that's why these applications are really, really fast, is because of this two-way data binding feature. So now AngularJS is a front-end framework, so it's on the client side. So how do you connect a database? Well, you could build your own database, and that takes a lot of time, but AngularJS was built for web designers, people who aren't that great at building backend code, and the database engineers. So there's tools like Firebase that you can save data, update data, and listen for data changes in real time, only with a few lines of code. Data is stored as standard JSON and is accessible from any platform. So AngularJS works with Firebase really well. You could build a database within 5 minutes and then have a full AngularJS application running on top of it, which is really cool. How to get started with AngularJS? I believe Code Academy has a classes called Shaping Up with AngularJS, which is a great tutorial. I'll also show you on AngularJS's homepage a few examples. So this is angularjs.org. They have all the documentation here if you want to look. They have videos, they have a free course, tutorials. It's a great website. So this is an example. See here we have a to-do app. So I could add more to-dos, presentation. Adds it in real time without any server loading or anything. We could archive these to-do list just like that. Now this is to the left here, the index HTML. And you can see here, this is what AngularJS, how you declare a controller, and ng-controller. And this is called to-do list controller. So if we look in the JS, we have to-do list controller. That's how we define our controller. In the index HTML, you see ng-click to-do list archive. So I just clicked that archive button before, and it gets rid of it. So if we look in the JavaScript, down here we see to-do list archive function, and this is the code to delete those. And now we also see add to do, and if we look in the HTML, it is right over here. So to do.list, that's the controller's name. Dot add to do, input type text, and this is all this over here. And right here, this is the code for it. So it's pushing it into the list. Now, if we built this in straight vanilla JavaScript, it would take hundreds of lines of code probably, where this takes about 28 lines of code. So this is a really small program, and you could do a lot, and it's actually useful. See, it happens all in real time. And this is another project that they have that's a little bit more complicated, but has a search box. You could edit. And everything changes in real time. There's no waiting time. And this is great for fast front-end development. So this is AngularJS. This is a little taste of it. There's a lot more to it. But thank you.